farcical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SNL Network's roundtable coverage of the Kieran Culkin and Ed Sheeran episode. That's episode number 5 from season 47. And we are here on a Monday night to talk through everything that we got to see from this episode, talk about Kieran Culkin's run as a host and maybe how he compared to his brother. So that'll be a lot of fun to talk through, and really just a ton of fun sketches that we talked about all throughout the weekend. It was just such an exciting episode, and I cannot wait to break it all down with these 3 panelists. Joining us first is the great Rebecca North. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm doing great. I can't wait to talk about this week's episode.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. Rebecca, everything good going over in Seattle, right?
Yeah, Seattle's great. It's dark at 5 o'clock right now, so I feel like I'm on the East Coast with you.
Yes, yeah, that was just weird. The clock change was weird. It was weird doing the podcast on Saturday, the Hot Take Show, when the clocks changed. That was odd, but yeah. But now it's we'll get through this winter together with lots of SNL, so that will be some fun. Also joining us is Sammy Kay. Sammy, who is doing really well, and I hope no crazy fire alarm interruptions.
Yeah, no, so far so good on fire alarm watch. But John, I'm great. I'm happy to be here, doing great. Rocking my new SNL season 47 memorial sweatshirt. So couldn't be happier to be here.
Is a memorial sweatshirt, is that a bad, like memorial? I feel like there's a negative connotation, like SNL's ended.
Maybe not the right word. It's honorary. I don't know. It's commemorating.
Commemorative.
Yeah, that's good. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're not memorializing season 47 just
we're not canceling season 47. That's for sure.
No, it's been too good of a season. So joining us for the first time though in this season is Darin Patterson from the SNL Nerds show. Darin, it is so great to talk about SNL with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John. Always a pleasure as always to be on this podcast. I remember when this podcast was like a little baby SNL stats, and now it's a full-grown network, a full-grown man. My boys all grows up. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. They grow up so fast. Mazel.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. And also, I mean, Darin was on our first episode with us back last year at the beginning of the fall. So it was really cool to just get to talk to him throughout last season. Darin, before we start, can I just ask, everything going well over at the SNL Nerds this season?
Oh, yeah, we're chugging along. SNL Nerds is just a finely tuned machine still going on. We just put out our episode about this Kieran Culkin, the episode. Cool. We also did an episode about the very first Ghostbusters from 1984, the OG, as sort of a nod to the up and coming Ghostbusters Afterlife movie coming out soon. So check those out, guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really fun podcast, so I definitely encourage you to check out everything that we get to hear from Darin and John Trumbull over there at the SNL Nerds. Let's talk about the Kieran Culkin episode. So as we start every single week, we're going to talk about our, discussion on the host that was booked for this episode, and that is Kieran Culkin. So I'm sure you have heard this a ton of times over the weekend, but Kieran Culkin obviously was on the Macaulay Culkin episode back in season 17 in 1991. And that was a really interesting episode. Macaulay Culkin was only 11 at the time, and Kieran was 9. So Macaulay was one of the youngest people to host SNL. Drew Barrymore, I believe, was 8. There was also Fred Savage. There were some young people who hosted SNL, but really, it's a rarity in the history of the show that we got to see people this young. And I just thought it was so cool to get to see some footage of Kieran back in the day. And I just want to talk about this choice to book Kieran Culkin, who is now majorly known for Succession. So, Rebecca, were you excited when Kieran was booked for the show?
I had no clue who he was. So I don't watch Succession. I know Macaulay Culkin, and I put it together by like a last name and a Google search. But I was excited because I know nothing about him. So to me, in my perspective, it was a new actor. So I was just excited to see what he would bring to this. I know Succession is not a comedy show, and that's the most I know about it. So I was excited to see what he would bring comedically. And yeah, I just had complete virgin eyes to him. So I was excited.
Yeah, and Succession is not a comedy show, but if there was comic relief in Succession, it is, Kieran Culkin on that show. And I actually binge watched Succession throughout the last, few days before the show just to get myself caught up on what we were seeing from Kieran Culkin. And Sammy, I'm going to make this comparison to you, but I was watching it and I hope it wasn't watching it in like 2 or 3x watching Succession, but I got a lot of Robert Downey Jr. / maybe a little bit of Tony Stark vibes from Kieran Culkin. And that's what I was thinking going to this episode.
Yeah, no, just an arrogant sort of rich guy, with some sort of power complex. Yeah, I definitely see that. Succession may not be a comedy, but for my money, it's like one of the funniest shows on TV, the way the family dynamics go. And Kieran is like a big part of that, like you're saying, he's like, a big part of the comedic relief. So I was very excited to see him get booked for this episode. Also, Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a movie that he was in, I guess 10 years ago now. And he's, one of the kind of the highlights of that movie. So yeah, I mean, I actually had like pretty high expectations for him because, I have such a love for him. So I was very excited to see him booked for the show. Surprised, but excited.
Definitely. Darin, what about you? Were you familiar with Kieran Culkin going into this episode?
Kind of like everybody else. I don't watch Succession. I haven't seen it, but I did remember him from, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, one of my favorite movies, probably of all time. That movie was a real home run. And of course, I knew he was Macaulay Culkin's brother, and I kind of felt the same way that you did, John. Like he does have like a young Robert Downey Jr. in the '80s type of vibe about him. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe, his confidence or his type of humor or something about him reminds me of a young RDJ. So, like, I think with going in with that, and the fact that he has done some comedy and Scott Pilgrim and like a number of indie movies here and there, I had a good feeling that I had a good feeling for it. I had a good idea like he would be a pretty solid host.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like, I would say almost like subtle arrogance with him where it's not like so overt, but it's really just like, behind one layer, we get to see, his snark. I would say he's like a little Tony Snark. So I would say I really, really, was excited to see what he would do. And Darin, I just want to ask you, have you watched the Macaulay Culkin episode from 1991, that season 17 one?
I didn't get a chance to watch it recently, but I remember watching it years ago when I was a kid. And I actually, before getting on this podcast, I kind of like quickly went through all the sketches that were in that episode, and there were like a lot of recurring characters. The Macaulay Culkin episode had the Stuart Smalley sketch. It had the superfans sketch. It had Rob Schneider's copy got making copies was in that
Rich
one.
Meister.
So it's like Rich Meister, yeah, totally forgot, but yeah. So yeah, there's like a bunch of like reoccurring characters, and it had that cold open that sort of mirrored Home Alone, where the cast left the studio without him, type of thing, which was like a nice little fun nod to the hugeness of that was Home Alone. So yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but like quickly watching some of the clips this afternoon, like kind of refresh my memory on it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat, and honestly, going through the sketches from that episode in 1991, you mentioned some of them, but Superfans, Rich Meister, there was Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, which was a very famous Phil Hartman sketch that he did a few times. There was a Love Toilet commercial, which is a very funny commercial parody that's been in a lot of different specials over the years. And there was a Simon character that was a famous Mike Myers character. It was really just a jam-packed episode in 1991. And the question is really, and for anybody who has watched that episode, is that episode better than the Kieran Culkin episode that we got to see this week? Because this episode was absolutely fantastic. It was just there was like so much packed in. And it was so different. I think the one commonality between the two episodes is season 17 had also a ton of cast members, but the difference in the eras really, season 17, that episode with Macaulay Culkin, it's like all recurring sketches. The only one that was recurring from this past episode was Dionne Warwick. So let's talk about the episode that we got to see from this week. Rebecca, how are you feeling about the episode overall? Were you excited with everything that you got to see from Kieran?
Yeah, I was super excited. Again, I did not know what to expect, and it definitely surpassed anything that I could have imagined it being. I mean, seeing that it was just so jam-packed, like Tracy Morgan cameo, Dionne Warwick cameo, just I don't know. I thought it was so great, and they put in the works for it, and it was a high turnout. I really thought they did a great job, and even hearing about him more in his monologue, I thought was awesome. And having that clip, because I did not see the 1991 episode, and having them show him in the air, and then having that callback, and then having a callback at the end of the episode too. I don't know. I think they did a great job tying everything together without harping too much on his brother.
Yeah, Sammy, what about you? Where is your head at about this episode number 5?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said before, I did have kind of high expectations for Kieran Culkin just because I'm such a fan. And I'll say that, this past Saturday, compared to the last couple, or, the first 4 of the season, this is the only episode that I've watched like by myself. Like every other episode I've, watched with, family or my girlfriend or whatever. So I think on the night, for whatever reason, reading the reactions afterwards and watching your guys' show, I was like, oh, I thought the episode was good, but not like anything like amazing. But then I rewatched it today with my girlfriend, and I was dying. And I like things that, for whatever reason didn't click with me the first time, definitely clicked. There are definitely things that, in the Hulu version, they kind of, cleaned up. We'll talk about like the men's bathroom stuff and everything like that. They kind of fixed in the edit. But yeah, I mean, I won't go ahead and, right now say it was the best episode of the season, but it definitely is like up there, with the Jason Sudeikis episode for me.
Yeah, and we try not to influence people too much with our hot take shows right after on Saturday nights. Like, you enjoy the episode how you enjoy the episode, and we give you our opinions too. But I do think that SNL is really something that is kind of meant to be watched with other people too. Like, it's really fun. Like, SNL is the party that you are invited to, but it's also really fun to enjoy that experience with other people. And if you get the opportunity to do that, even just, watching at home, let alone being in the house, it changes the perspective of watching the show for sure. So I could totally relate to that, Sammy. Darin, what about you? Overall thoughts on the Kieran Culkin episode?
Overall, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. I actually think the last 3 episodes we've gotten this season so far have been pretty strong. I mean, the Rami Malek episode I liked quite a bit. The Sudeikis was a home run, and this one was just as strong. It's like I feel like the momentum is moving. I feel like the season is changing. The show is slowly starting to change and evolve into something different, which is something a lot of us have been, have been wanting for a while now. I think like, the chunk of new writers we've gotten has something to do with it. The new cast members, there's just like a new vibe. Like we're slowly getting into that new era, and then like I don't know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man.
It is beautiful. I'm really excited about everything that we're seeing in the first 5 episodes. I said on Twitter, I said like, hey, don't at me, but this is the best season in at least 5 years. And I think like that's my take. We did actually poll the audience about something like that. So we'll get those results throughout, as soon as the show is done or near the end of the show, and we'll announce what the audience actually thinks about that as well. But Rebecca, let's start with the cold open. Let's start talking about what we saw from this episode. And we open up with Justice with Judge Jeanine. And we thought we had seen the last of Judge Jeanine when she was throwing wine all over Colin. And it turns out that Judge Jeanine is back. We had an Aaron Rodgers appearance. Glenn Youngkin is the first appearance from Alex Moffat. And Heidi Gardner was also there. And then the craziness of James Austin Johnson with a Donald Trump impression. So, Rebecca, what did you think of our cold open?
Yeah, I felt like there was just so much news this week that they had to sift out from anything that like they were going to talk about in Weekend Update and then dive deeper into here. So it's kind of how it felt, because it definitely was just a hodgepodge of a lot of current events being spoken about, and then a Donald Trump impression when we haven't really heard too much from him these days, which has been nice. And I thought it was funny. I mean, anytime Cecily pulls out that impression, like, it just sends me. It doesn't matter what she's saying. She could be reading the dictionary and it would still be funny. So I think that it was a strong cold open, and they did a good job just capturing a lot of current events here. And JAJ's Donald Trump impression, I think, is the best we've seen in years. Like, he blows Alec Baldwin out of the water. So I think, I don't know, really strong open to the episode. And I think that kind of set the tone for things.
Yeah, well, speaking of, before we get to the Trump stuff, I mean, the Cecily thing, I mean, there were some really great lines with this one. I loved this one.
Straight talk, Aaron, because I never talk gay.
That was unbelievable. So that was a really great line. And then obviously the Trump stuff, which we're definitely going to talk about. So Sammy, let me head over to you. What did you think of the cold open?
Yeah, so it's funny that we talk about Cecily's Janine Pirro, as when she first came on the screen. There's part of me that is kind of like the SNL nerd in me, not the I know Darin's on the show. The SNL nerd in me is kind of like, she has
Hey,
such a great.
that's not yours, Sammy. You can't say that.
I can't.
That's our word. That's our word.
Sue him, Darin.
Yeah, please don't. But no, there's part of me that was like the canon, the continuity of SNL that we internally keep as SNL fans. Who's like, she had this great send off, and I personally thought, okay, if she's not coming back, or if she's going to come back for the season, maybe she's just retiring that character, because how do you top that? And then I after a minute, I'm just like, oh no, this just impression's hilarious. And, that is something you just put aside and whatever. But yeah, no, the cold open overall, I really enjoyed. I did, definitely think the latter half was stronger for me because of JAJ's Trump, and we'll get to that. But, they do have a habit of kind of what it feels like is last minute doing like a hodgepodge sort of the current events thing. And I do like a cold open that's more kind of like focused on one thing as opposed to trying to do a million things at once. But, having said that, I think I enjoyed it overall and definitely ended stronger than it started.
Yeah, it was a long cold open, very long compared to what we got to see in Sudeikis this episode. I think that was closer to 5 minutes. This was closer to 9 minutes. But there were parts that I really just felt like I couldn't get enough of, and that was the Trump stuff. So, Darin, how did you feel about it?
I kind of felt the same way everybody did. I really loved Janine Pirro, right? Cecily Strong's character. And I think a lot of people aren't giving like Heidi's little segment enough props too, because she has some really funny stuff in there too, as the mom trying to get books banned, like The Great Gatsby, too much jazz, like little things here and there. She has like some really sharp lines there, like Pride and Prejudice. I like the prejudice part, but Pride has been co-opted by the like stuff like that. There was she had some real good zingers, but I know like the main part of it was the cold open kid, James Austin Johnson, his Trump, which is a solid Trump impression. And I think I remember, John, you talking about on the last episode where this seems like now it's officially the end of the Alec Baldwin as Trump era. Like we have JAJ, so we're good. And he has a great Trump impression. It's a little bit different than the others, but it's its own thing. But it's really solid. The only thing I was kind of iffy on was like when he did that sort of 60-second rundown. And like that was really great, but then they went and did it again and did it like another time. I was like, "Why are we? You just did it."
Wait, Darin.
You know what? Could I get 60 more seconds, please?
Wow, that's why you're the king. That's why you're the king, Joe. Yeah, but yeah, I just thought just doing it once would have been enough, and I'm not sure why they had to go back and read and do it all over again. But yeah, I like the cold open. But yeah, I think like if they shortened it up a little bit, like taking out that, that extra 60-second rant, it would have been a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just that he did the one like PTI from pardon the interruption, from ESPN, like that one like list of things, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then when he was like, can I get another 60 seconds, I just thought it was just gonna keep going. Like it was just, like I said on Saturday, I was transfixed with all of this. So I do wonder where they're gonna end up going with this, if this is gonna be something we're gonna end up seeing 2 or 3 times a season, or if this is more of like a one and done scenario. I can't imagine that we're not going to see JAJ as Trump again this season, which is something I'm very surprised that I'm saying. But I just think it was so well received that, and they know that they got a ton of headlines from it. I think we're going to see this again. So I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, well, and I just to jump in want to say that, this impression was incredible because when he did the 60 seconds again and he keeps going, just like, man, it is exhausting to hear this guy talk, which is exactly how I would feel when the real guy did it. So
yes, I was in my kitchen, TV on, hungover, making some chicken noodle soup, and then wasn't looking, and that voice came, and I like sharply turned, and I was like, whoa, that is so spot on. But I even see here in the comments, people are saying that they are hoping that they use the Trump impression in a sparing way. And I know, John, they got so many headlines from that, but I'm hoping they don't overdo it, just because Trump's era is over. We should, we shouldn't have to harp on it, although it is super funny. I hope that they only use it when it's actually funny and they don't do like another 60 seconds at the end just because they know it's a good impression.
Yeah. I mean, part of me just wishes that we had JAJ's Biden versus JAJ's Trump last season. I just would have loved to see something like that. That could have been, and we almost would have had like, Dana Carvey used to do something like that where he did like Ross Perot at the same time as he did H.W. Bush. Like, I could not imagine that would be like the whole next level of JAJ on the show.
I hate to say it, but you might get your wish in a couple of years, John.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyways, last thing before this, but I just have to say this other line always gets me. And I downloaded this clip today and I just couldn't stop laughing.
The movie's rotten, just ask the tomatoes.
It's just, that's so brilliant. Okay. All right. Enough on that for the people who are tired about hearing us gush over JJ. We'll keep doing it as long as he keeps being the cold open kid, as Darin says, but just really, really impressed with everything we got to see from him. Okay. So let's start with the sketches that we got to see on the show. Rebecca, can I start with you? What sketch or segment do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'm going to start strong, and we're going to go right into the weekend update, Cecily Strong as the clown who got an abortion. And just to sum it up for everyone, it's that she's a clown who once got an abortion, actually the day before her 23rd birthday, as she kept repeating. And she did it such a genius way of saying, like, the only thing that they want to talk to her about is having an abortion, but she's a clown. Why don't you want to talk about that? And then would keep going back to that segment. And I think it was a way for them to really discuss this because it is such a pressing issue right now, especially with last week's election in a lot of different states. I know a lot of people are nervous about the abortion laws there, and I know that they definitely want to talk about it, but it's super hard to make that lighthearted and to make all the controversy lighthearted. So giving an opinion from someone who did have an abortion, and she was talking about all the clowns that's lives it's changed and all of that in a way, and then being like, why do you care about me getting an abortion though? Then kept going back and forth and was kind of just monologuing about how it changed her life, but referring to herself as a clown and saying that it really helped develop her career and she wouldn't be standing where she was if she didn't get that abortion the day before her 23rd birthday. So I thought it was a pretty genius way for them to actually bring this conversation in here without being so transparent about it, although being transparent about it, if that makes sense. Like, they're very openly talking about it, but the fact that they had her be a clown, it really just took a lot of the seriousness and made it laughable. And I thought it was hysterical.
Yeah, it was so interesting to take the clown, like the writing of the clown, and put it over the top of her discussion about like her personal life. It was an interesting, like almost like I wasn't a contrast. I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but it was just an interesting like layer on top of her story that during, when I was watching it live, I didn't appreciate it as much as I think I should have. And, like that's one of the great things about having this SNL community is that we get so many people from so many different backgrounds who are able to like come in and say like, hey, this was just absolutely fascinating. And I had, I was just so impressed after watching this so many times with just like how well spoken she was, especially on the live show, because if you go to the YouTube version of this, you'll see the dress version, which, because during live there was technical malfunctions. Her horn wasn't working. The flower she had actually sprayed in Colin's lapel mic, so there was microphone issues, and she just like powered through, and it was just a really, really excellent piece that she did. Sammy, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, now I got to watch the YouTube version because the Hulu version, for whatever reason, is still the live version. But I really enjoyed this. Definitely one of the highlights of the night for me. I picked Cecily Strong for my SNL cast draft that we did on the Superfan Takeover earlier this past summer. And she's just like one of the GOATs. She is maybe one of the only cast members in the show's history that could do something like this. And she has done stuff like this in the past. This is a piece I forgot about until someone on Reddit pointed it out, but she, around the time that Me Too first was happening in like November of 2017, she came on as like an HR representative doing like the interview with Colin. And that was such another kind of genius way to take such like a tough topic to talk about and make it funny and digestible, especially for something that has such a large audience as SNL. it's like when you have your dog and you have to give them their medicine and you put in peanut butter. Like she's able to do that with comedy for these like really hard, important topics to talk about and still make it funny. So yeah, really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and our friend Cole in the chat says that what was put on YouTube was the live version on Saturday. So I didn't realize. So my bad. I thought they did. For some reason, I thought I saw a version without the mistakes. But if that was the reason they chose to, for whatever reason they chose to put the live version up, I'm cool with that too. It's just I thought it was interesting that all those she like powered through and did such an amazing job, even though there were technical errors. Darin, what did you think of this piece from Cecily?
I thought it was amazing. I remember a couple episodes ago on my podcast, like towards the end of the last season, like I think I probably said something in the vein of, oh yeah, maybe this should be the last season for Edie and Kate and Cecily, because I think we've seen everything they can do. And then Cecily comes out and does this and totally proves me wrong. I was like, oh wow, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. Because what she did here, it kind of reminded me of two other Weekend Update segments. It kind of reminded me a little bit of when Kate did the Dr. We Notice, and when Bowen spoke about back when there was the rise in Asian hate crimes, because Cecily's sort of doing this thing where she's sort of hiding behind this character, but she's not, and she's also speaking about the subject, which is a really horrible thing to talk about, or it's just very, very delicate thing to talk about, but trying to find the levity in it too, trying to find the jokes in it somewhere too, because it's a really sort of tightrope, really thin tightrope to walk, because you don't want to sound like you're sort of downplaying it or belittling it anyway. You want to give it the seriousness it deserves because it's a serious topic, but at the same time you also trying to find the light and levity in it. I think she was able to sort of balance those two really well, I think.
Yeah, and also thank you to Ike in the chat who just clarified. So the YouTube version is the live version, but they did re-edit some of Colin's lines. So probably that is where they found a good middle ground for something like that. So one of the things I thought would be cool to share on the show, and let me see if I could bring this up right now. This is I'm going to bring on screen. So if you're listening to the audio and you want to check out our video version on YouTube, I'm going to bring up a screenshot from Cecily, and I hope you can all read it. If you go in full screen, you'll probably be able to. But basically, Cecily posted an Instagram story today, and she said, "I work with the best people on earth. Thank you, Anna Dresden and Kent Sublette, for writing with me, and for @DoyleBird for being the first person I could text on Monday asking, is this an insane idea or ... because she's not only a great friend and she's an amazing producer." And thank you to Joseph Che and all of SNL for being on board immediately and giving this clown a seat at your table. I didn't tell my own wonderful and supportive mom for years, and Saturday I told live TV. So that is just incredible of Cecily. As a whole other layer, obviously, not talking about something like this with your family and then being able to do that on live TV. It's just really unbelievably impressive. And I think that the trend that we are seeing, though they are, completely different subjects, you are right, guys. Like what we're seeing from, Kate McKinnon and then Bowen Yang and then Cecily Strong being able to be extremely vulnerable throughout, going on Weekend Update and having those conversations, I think is so important, not only for the topics they're discussing, but also for the fans of SNL to get to know these cast members better. We appreciate their work so much more when we get to know, what makes them tick, or what really, what they're, how strongly they feel about certain subjects. Getting to know the SNL cast, there shouldn't be that degree of separation where we don't know them that well. And I think that this is a great insight into, their lives more. So really appreciate everything from Cecily, and just want to also say this line that I just thought was absolutely fantastic.
Okay, Colin Jost thinks women are clowns. Cool.
So that was just a great balance between Cecily and Colin throughout that.
Yeah, that's also... Oh. Go down.
I was gonna make a joke saying Che was trying to cancel jokes forever, and see, Cecily's knows, cancel jokes.
Yeah. Well, there is a big thing in media for cancel Jost also, so I think that was a pretty big, important thing that she mentioned that was actually real. If you look on TikTok or Twitter, there's a lot of canceled Jost posts, and I think that that's her way of kind of bringing it to the show, because they haven't really fully discussed that besides Che trying to cancel him.
It's good for the movement.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so really great piece from Cecily, and there was a lot of great stuff in this episode. Sammy, let me send it over to you. Which sketch do you want to talk about?
Well, first off, thank you for sharing that post from Cecily. Reading that actually made me a little emotional. So let's talk about men's bathrooms to lighten the mood. Men's bathroom sketch. As someone who, prior to COVID, worked in an office in sales with a bunch of dudes, this was incredibly relatable. And it was a cool way for the show to do it from a production standpoint as well. There are times where the show kind of choose to do voiceover or something like that to kind of do like these inner monologue sort of things. And I thought this was like a really interesting way to do it. For me, there's just so many quotable lines I'm sure you've got on the soundboard. But for me, my favorite was Dismukes, who is just coming in hot this season and at the end of last season, but this season with so many incredible one-liners. Do you have it?
Which one?
Do you know it? Do it.
Well, wait, no, I have one. I don't think I have the Andrew one from this sketch. I have an Andrew one from the other sketch, but not from this one.
Well, when his character is talking about what's everybody doing next summer, or what's everyone doing this summer, and he's like, "Oh, we are months away from the summertime."
Yes. Okay. I will get that on the soundboard, I promise. There were just so many great clips from this episode. It was just hard for me to pick and choose, but thank you. Yes, Dismukes has unbelievable lines. So yeah, this sketch. Sammy, didn't mean to interrupt you. Anything else?
No. I mean, I was just gonna keep gushing on like the great quotes for this one. Obviously, in the live version, the ending was a little bundled, but yeah, as I kind of alluded to before, like they cleaned it up on Hulu. So then when me and my girlfriend were rewatching it, like it kind of just ends on that line from Tracy and goes into the audience, and it's just like a perfect kind of button for the sketch. Great cameo and a great kind of way to tie it all in. And it was very cool to see afterwards. You get all the scoops on who wrote each sketch. This was like a dream team of writers for me. It was Bowen, Chris Red, and the PDS boys. Wrote the sketch together. So what you said? A PDD. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what PDS stands for, but yeah. Really cool to see them keep getting their sketches on the show.
Sammy, speaking of P,
sounds like your stream's coming along really well over there.
So, yes, I did pull some lines for this one, so we'll get through them. Darin, what were your thoughts on the men's room?
I mean, I thought this was fantastic. Super relatable to a man like myself who's used the men's room on numerous occasions. Just the lines of like how no one's quite themselves in the men's room. I did notice there was this one point where I knew I'd like it when Kieran Culkin used the urinal right next to Chris Red. Like I saw that and I was at home. I was like, ew, what's that about? Don't use the urinal right next to a guy. And then they brought it up with Kieran saying, yeah, why did I come right next to him? Our arms are touching.
Here, I do have that one, Darin.
Why did I choose the urinal right next to him?
Yes, as every man knows.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
One at a time. Darin.
Yeah, Darin, go.
They're so excited about the sketch. It's like as every guy knows, you give like at least a one urinal buffer. So the fact that they were able to call that out is just like, wow, this sketch really gets me. The only thing I'll say is like I kind of wish maybe the ending was a little bit stronger. I don't know because like as it was going on with everybody saying the things that's on their mind, like football is crazy and see you out on the ice. And then it took this dark turn where Alex comes in and he does his confessional saying, I killed a man in 2012. I didn't even hide the body well. Like, still got away with it. And I thought that was great, but then it just kind of ended with the Tracy Morgan cameo, and then it just it ended it a little too abruptly for me, I think I'll say. I think I liked it, but I think the ending should have been a little tighter, just for me.
Yeah, so that we did find out and got confirmation that the Tracy part in this sketch was tacked on between dress and air because there was a Succession sketch that Tracy was going to be in that got cut during dress rehearsal, and they wanted to put Tracy in something. So that was, kind of weird, the tacked on part with Tracy, but I was always happy to see him. And then, so I mean, I think that was probably my least favorite part of this sketch. But in the YouTube version, they actually, this I did see, they cut it off like right at the point they should have. So in the live version, all of the cast members are like running and hugging each other because they didn't know what to do, I guess. And they cut that part out completely from the sketch. Rebecca, how did you feel about this?
Oh my God, I struggle all the time at the urinal. the conversation's crazy. No, but honestly, I thought it was great. It's not relatable to me whatsoever, but it's still super laughable. I'm like, I've thought about this all the time. Like, I honestly wish they dove in a little deeper. Like, I'm always curious, like, do you look over? Like, like look at the other people's like stuff. Like, I wish they even got even deeper, for my opinion.
So
But
can I answer your question? So
Yeah,
I
please
think that so I think that the answer to the question is there is a sacred rule that the bathroom is a safe place and we don't look down. So even if you glance something out of the corner of your eye, you look forward.
Oh my God, I feel like I'd be staring. But there were actually two things I did want to mention about first. I don't know if anyone saw, but Bowen Yang actually posted on Instagram an email that I'll read, that I don't have the little fancy screenshot thing like John does. But he writes on November 1st, "Hi fellas, Chris and I have a dumb idea that's along the lines of all the weird bathroom chit chat that happens in men's room. The sort of rushed, bizarrely chummy conversations that happens at the urinals, at the sinks, whatever." And he posted on his Instagram that email from that day. And it was funny that that's like, he's been dreaming about this sketch and finally see it come to fruition. We never really get that side of things. And when people actually discuss like, oh, I was so happy it made it to air tonight and all those different things. And then the other thing is, I hope they have a follow-up sketch that is drunk women in the bathroom, because that is comedy gold. And for you guys that don't know, every drunk woman in the bathroom is best friends, sisters, and they're going to get dinner the next day together. So I think that could be a really good, like, kind of like callback sketch to this one within like a couple seasons from now or something.
Yes. I agree. I would love to see it. I feel like there's a lot of stuff here, and I just couldn't believe that, like, not that every SNL ID, like, obviously stuff is recycled over the years. I just couldn't believe that they had never done anything like this before. And I was like, hey, on the Hot Take Show, I was like, hey, chat, let me know if you've ever seen a sketch like this. And I don't think anybody has, and it was just so creative and fun. And it's something that like every man thinks about. Like, there was just parts of this that every man thinks about. And I brought this up on Saturday, and I'll say it again for those who didn't check out the Hot Take Show. I had an experience where I was in college and one of the professors came over and he literally went in the urinal right next to me. And why did
I choose the urinal right next to him?
Why did he do it? I don't know. But then it was totally fine. And I was just like, okay, gonna look forward. You know, I'm just one of 100 and something people potentially in his lecture, and it's totally fine. And he happened to know my name. I talked to him a few times, and he just looks over and turns to me and just says like, hey, John, like, how'd you think of the lecture? Like, what did you think of it? Like, how was it? And just no pee can come out at that point. Like, that's just what happens. So Sammy, have you had this experience?
Look, it's a difficult subject for me because, yeah, I mean, before COVID, when I was working in an office, you know, like when the pandemic first started and we were working from home, there was a moment like a month or two in where I'm like, man, I literally had the thought of like one of the only good things about this thing is that I don't have to share the bathroom with anybody else. Like, that is like truly like a thought that went in my head. And yeah, I mean, you know, there would be times similar to you where I'd be at the urinal and like, you know, the president of our department would just like come right next to me, and like immediately I just like, well, I have to like pretend like I'm done.
No, Sammy, did you just say the president?
You know what? Could I get 60 more seconds, please?
Sorry, go ahead.
Different president in this situation, but no. I'm gonna cut off that story and just say, yeah, I've been there. And
wait, no, you cannot do that. The listeners
it's not that interesting. I'm basically saying, like, yeah, I have been there where the president of the department comes in and he doesn't even have to say anything, and it's just in my peripheral vision, I'm just like, I'm done. I can't do anything. Yeah. So that was fun to reveal to everybody.
Thank you.
Life is so hard as a man.
Yes,
it's really hard. We really have it rough.
Yeah, well, you should know our struggle.
Okay, you're not going to comment. But Darin,
I'm going to go get my clown costume.
Yes, exactly. What I will say is the only situations, and this is the question that I think that people are asking, the only situations where I think it is socially acceptable to go to stand in the urinal next to some other, I guess, man, is at a sports event or a concert where you're at an arena. Well, Darin, you're shaking your head, so tell me, because I feel like when they're all full, like that's the only time it's okay.
if they're all full and you really have to go, all right, fine, yeah, that's the one exception. But other than that, I just can't have that. Just go use the stall. I don't know, pee in the street. I don't know, standing next to another.
Pee in the street. Okay.
I can sense you have a real passion for this subject, John. This could be like a new show for the channel. Very centered on the struggle.
Yes, I think there is a podcast about SNL struggles, but the thing is that SNL tells us what to talk about, not us. So, Darin, I just want to ask before we head off, any stories you want to share, or are we good?
No, I haven't had anybody talk to me in the urinal. I go in, I get in, get out, do what I got to do. It's like a bank heist. I just go in, do what I got to do, and get the hell out.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we'll finish up. But just again, this line that Darin mentioned about Alex Moffat, but just a killer line.
I killed a man in 2012.
Just unbelievable. So many great lines from this sketch. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. And for the people who are tired of hearing me talk about it, I'm sorry. So, Darin, over to you. Which sketch do you want to talk about?
The sketch of the night for me, as far as I'm concerned, canceling cable. I mean, it's a simple premise: man on his phone trying to cancel his cable subscription, and just where it goes and the elevation of it is amazing. It's a sketch where it pretty much has almost everybody from the cast. There's everybody gets a few quick good lines here and there. And like I said, just the elevation of it is amazing. Because at first you see Kieran Culkin talk to Mikey Day, and then he gets put on hold, and just him sort of getting transferred to all these other people because he's just trying to get his cable canceled is fantastic. I like the lines that when he was put on hold, and then you hear Cecily's voiceover over the hold music. You hear her saying things like,
"Oh, you want one? Oh, I'll bring you one here."
Yeah,
This is my favorite one, Darin.
I have a question about your bill. Ask your husband to explain it to you.
Oh my God,
it's just a nice quick misogyny line. Fantastic.
Yes, this episode has everything.
Yeah, exactly. This has it all. And again, your boy Dismuke's coming in as a Domino pizza delivery guy because Spectre transferred him to him, saying, what was it? I think it was Kieran saying, "Oh, thank you, you've been so helpful. You're the most competent person I've talked to so far." And Kieran and Andrew saying, "Oh, that's surprising because I'm high as hell." And this one, yeah,
That's crazy because I'm high as hell.
So good.
Just so many lines, when Cecily also said when Kieran was on hold, having Wi-Fi trouble, try unplugging your router and spitting in it. Just quick lines, and the whole thing ends with Bowen Yang as a floating head called Spectre. It's fantastic. This sketch does have everything.
Yeah, this was wild. Rebecca, I know you couldn't relate to men's bathroom, but was there things here in canceling cable that you learned?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite types of sketches is when you actually call out a company and you actually say Spectrum or the Sara Lee's company. And just makes it so much funnier than when they make up their own company just because it's so real. And we've all dealt with, whether it's actually canceling it. It's so frustrating to get a hold of anyone there ever. So I thought it was so good. And my favorite part was Keenan, honestly, just showing up being like, "I'm here to put in your cable and I'm here to put in your landline," and just showing up in the apartment. I thought that was so good. And for some reason, he was sending me every time Keenan came on the screen. I lost it. I thought it was so funny. And then my other standout part is when, I forget who it was, but two people answered at the same time. They're like, "Oh, hey, you're here. That's so funny. I didn't mean." And then they both hang up at the same time, put her back.
Yeah, that was Sarah and Melissa.
Yes, it was. I don't know. I thought it was just an all-around good thing. I like when it's super relatable. It's one stupid idea that happens, I have to go cancel this, and they made a whole sketch out of it. So I thought it was a really standout sketch.
Yeah, Sammy, how did you feel about canceling cable?
I enjoyed it a lot. I do want to give a shout out to Sarah, who as much as I'd like to see her get a sketch of her own, I feel like like there have been like certain sketches, like the bug kind of school sketch and stuff like that, where like she like really just like uses her facial expressions in like very like I guess funny ways. I don't know a better way to describe it, but she's able to like kind of like, you know, use up as little screen time as she has, and like, you know, makes every line and everything she says like really count. But no, I really enjoyed this one. For me, the voiceovers by Cecily were just incredible. You know, it was definitely like the icing on the cake of like an already like really stellar sketch. For me, the line that was triggering to me was the due to a higher call volume, your call will not be answered. Earlier this summer, I had to deal with something like this for 2 months. Was calling like every day for 2 months, and within like 3 minutes, I get that, and I spend like an hour calling, and I'm just like, man, like that just sent like shivers down my spine.
Was this with Spectrum?
Not with a cable company. It was with unemployment. So even worse.
Okay, well, I didn't mean to bring
No, I was trying to dance around it, but it's fine. But
Okay.
but yeah, no, yeah. Overall, great sketch. You know, really cool to see kind of everybody, you know, have like a moment to shine. I mean, Kyle's character when he comes in and says. I don't even remember what he says, but he does like this voice that he's done a million times on the show that just kills me every time. So really enjoyed this. Great escalation, great joke writing all around.
Sammy, when you called unemployment, did they ask you this?
What city did your mom lose her virginity in?
Because that would be wrong.
Yeah. They didn't ask, but you know, I wish I could have gotten to someone to even ask me that level of question. It was very much like you're on hold for 3 minutes, and then I was able to resolve it. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think what I really thanks for sharing. I think what I really liked about this sketch a lot was I felt like this was the perfect sketch to start the night with. And I usually am very critical of where they put, you know, like sketch placement. And I know it's not always like by choice. Some things there's logistical decisions that have to be made here. But this was such a great sketch to start the night because not only did it feature a ton of cast members, but it basically centered around Kieran Culkin. So he was like the main star of this sketch and right away is establishing himself with the audience. So if you know, I know a lot of people felt like he was like a little bit nervous in the monologue. He was like so, you know, poised and able to interact with all the different people in this sketch who were, in my assumption, probably on different stages because they had different backgrounds and had to be coming in, and they probably, you know, they had the background of the apartment where Kieran was in, but I don't think that he was talking to anybody that was in close proximity to him. So the fact that he was able to maneuver through that in the first sketch of the night, to me, was a great start for him for this evening. And I just also want to shout out Heidi Gardner, who I just think continues to crush it this season. She's having an amazing season, and I just loved when she said this.
I'm not great either, actually.
It was so quick, but so like the pauses between the words and stuff. She's just an absolute all-star at, you know, saying her lines. And I'm loving everything we're getting to see from Heidi this season. So again, just an incredible run of live sketches that we got to see in this episode. So anything else, guys, on the canceling cable? Okay. Let's move on to the sketch that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about the Dionne Warwick talk show, which was the third iteration of the Dionne Warwick talk show. We saw this twice last year with Timothée Chalamet and Nick Jonas, and now we got it here, and we had a bunch of impressions, and Ed Sheeran obviously makes an appearance in this one, but really just the highlight of the, you know, potentially the evening, if you had to narrow it down to just one specific moment, was this just incredible moment for Ego when Dionne Warwick came out, the real Dionne Warwick. And, you know, if you're an SNL fan and you're on social media, this was something you were probably expecting to happen, but just to see it happen on screen. I mean, Dionne Warwick's 80 years old and has never been on Saturday Night Live before, never performed as a musical guest, never cameoed before. And to just have her on there, you know, I think of so many celebrities who like, haven't gotten an opportunity to be on SNL, and then maybe are no longer with us, and just to have this moment with Dionne Warwick, to me, is like a really big celebration of her career, and just a celebration of Ego's biggest character probably that she's had on the show. So it was really, really fun to watch this sketch play out the way it did, and I wonder if we're going to see it again, but if we don't, I think this was a great way to end it. So Darin, can I start with you on this one? How did you feel about the Dionne Warwick sketch?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the sketch was okay. Like basically, like when all the the sketch basically just sort of hit all the same beats it did before. We saw Chloe Fineman's Miley Cyrus impression, which reminded me a lot of her Tiffany Trump impression. And but like the sketch was pretty much going through the same beats. We had a little some little poking a little fun at Jason Mraz. It was just Kieran Culkin in the fedora. And like so far, like when the sketch was going on, I was like, all right, this is okay. I've seen this before. It's hit the same beats. It's okay. It's so. But yeah, like you said, at the end, I think the end made the entire sketch worth it. Because like I did not expect to see Jersey's own Dionne Warwick come out at the end and have this really kind of nice, sweet, tender moment with Ego. They exchanged some jokes and like they sang together. It was actually like really like kind of sweet and heartwarming. So I was like, yeah, the sketch was okay, but the ending part, that's what really made it for me, I think.
Yeah, and also, Darin, you brought up the impression of Miley Cyrus, and I don't like to always like point out when I don't think something works, but I did not think this worked very well. And Chloe is a great impressionist. And I was having a conversation with Nicole, who works with us at the SNL Network, the other day, and we were trying to think about Chloe Fineman's trajectory. And I just think this is like the most stunning development of season 47. There's so many great things that are happening, and just the lack of time for Chloe Fineman. She had a moment with Jennifer Coolidge earlier in the season that I think like everybody was talking about was so great, but just she hasn't been in a lot of things, and I didn't think this impression played so well. And I'm like really stunned not to see her be doing more things in the show. So Rebecca, can I send it over to you, either a comment on that or a comment on the sketch in general?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to. I love Chloe Fineman like so much, and not even her on SNL. I've been following her online for years now, and I thought the impression was like horrible. Like, there's no other way to say it. The look was uncanny. She looked just like her, but I thought it was just bad. And like they spent a lot of screen time on the impression, and Chloe is so talented, but it just did not play well. I don't know what's up. I was even going to say earlier, like they couldn't even throw her a bone and put her in the cable commercial. Like weird things that like, I don't know what's going on or why she just isn't really being as strong as I thought when she was promoted to full time. I was like, wow, this is going to be exciting to see what happens. And her and Bowen were both promoted together that way. And Bowen is killing it. And Chloe is just not getting the screen time I think she deserves. But now onto the sketch. I'm not going to say I thought the sketch was funny. Like, the sketch wasn't funny. It was more heartwarming when the actual Dionne Warwick came on stage. And I didn't really realize how uncanny Ego's impression is until she was there. And I was like, this is crazy that they are looking at each other and they sound exactly the same. But I did wish they kind of mic'd up the real Dionne Warwick a little louder, because when they came to singing, I couldn't really hear her. And I was so excited because I'm like, she's obviously going to sing when she's here. And I could only hear Ego when they were both singing together. And that was a little disappointing. But I do think I saw in the comments here that it could be the end of I know Ike wrote, it could be that they're retiring the sketch. And maybe it's time to. I know it was super relevant when I was following Dionne Warwick on Twitter, and it was all over the place, BuzzFeed, everywhere, like she's unhinged. And now it might be a little played out, especially since the impressions that they're bringing on aren't great.
Yeah, and I just one more note on that Chloe Fineman stuff. I was trying to think about like who her SNL trajectory reminds me of, and I do find that she reminds me a lot of Abby Elliott. Somebody, a cast member who was really good at impressions and was really good at a lot of the sketches they put her in, but probably underutilized. And it's very early on in her career at SNL, I would hope still, but I still haven't, I'm still waiting for her to like take that next star potential. And I actually think that outside of SNL, Chloe Fineman is a bigger name probably than Abby was at the time. So I think that if you're in an SNL fantasy league, you want to trade at, for Chloe Fineman right now at her lowest point on the show. So I think she's a huge buy low candidate. It's just weird what we're getting to see from her so far this season. Sammy, over to you.
Yeah, that Abby Elliott comparison is actually like pretty on the money there. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo what everybody else said, this sketch wasn't the funniest iteration of the other Dionne Warwick talk show sketches. I do think that Ego is the star, is the draw of this kind of bit. I mean, I guess I kind of struggled with this and the other iterations of this sketch before because I'm such like an impressions sort of guy. And really like good impressions. And this isn't necessarily like an impression sort of, machine sort of template sketch like Celebrity Jeopardy is or Celebrity Family Feud or whatever. This is very much so like Ego's one-liners. And yeah, like the Dionne Warwick impression maybe is good. Until today, had never really seen the real Dionne Warwick. I was familiar with her Twitter. So I can't really speak to, I guess like at the end there, it was a good impression, but yeah, a lot of the lines that she had were great. The favorite of mine was probably about Kanye. It was Kanye changed his name to Ye. Is that the sound people make when he leaves the room? I thought that was really great, especially, I guess sort of a callback to when Kim hosted a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, this is the type of thing that SNL, I think, does best is when they do bring in the real life person. It's like really the only show or thing in media, TV, movies, or whatever that can really do that to the level where it's funny, but also sort of, heartwarming to see, someone who, Ego clearly has love for Dionne Warwick, and, the impression isn't to make fun of her, it's to honor her in a way and, make somebody like me who had never really heard of her before, get that spotlight on her. And so, as much as I didn't think it was one of my favorites of the night, I was happy it happened.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, I think that having Dionne Warwick on the show actually, and the story of having her come onto the show really led to a whole new generation of, or no, maybe an older generation of people who haven't watched SNL in a long time be excited to check that out. I know, like, my mom was like, "Oh, was Dionne Warwick on Saturday Night Live this weekend?" And like, she's not a regular watcher of the show, but she was just very excited to hear about that because she's a big Dionne Warwick fan. So I think that, like, I'm excited that they were able to, reach different demographics by having Dionne on the show, and it is like a very fun impression. The only other thing I was going to say was, what an easy night for Pete Davidson coming on and playing Aaron Rodgers for 30 seconds and then Post Malone for like 15 seconds. I mean, he just like got to do his two impressions of two very famous people who are, in the news constantly. And Pete Davidson did it. And it was just like, that was it. They just had to come out and do that. So I thought that was a really funny note. I just texted Mike Murray. I don't know if he's going to get back to me before the end of the show, but I was curious what Pete's actual screen time was from this week. If he gets to tell me, I'll share that with you guys as we go. Sorry, Rebecca, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had one last thing about the sketch, and I don't know if anyone has the answer or if anyone in the comments could explain the Elton John bit that kept being brought up, that like he does duets with a lot of people, and I thought that must have been the joke, is that like he is doing a lot of duets with young like female singers, but they kept harping on it. I don't know if it's something I'm missing that I just don't know any backstory on, but I would think that there was more to it if someone like knows the answer, because it seemed kind of random for them to keep bringing it up, that like, oh, he doesn't want to do a duet with her. And like the one time joke was funny, but then they kept saying it to make me think that there must be a deeper storyline.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that Elton John has that song Cold Heart with Dua Lipa, so maybe it was just a reference to that. I don't know if there's more, but if somebody in the chat knows, let us know so we can tell everybody who's listening to the show. Okay, so let me ask you, Rebecca, is there anything else from the show that we didn't cover that you want to make sure we do?
I could just quickly touch on Ed's performances, because
Sure.
every time I come on here, I bring up the musical guest. So I thought he was good. I mean, Ed Sheeran's music is good, and I like to listen to it, like when I'm doing work or background. His performances are always just good. Like he sings, he does the trick. And yeah, I thought it was a good chance for him to broadcast two of his songs. He did choose two super popular ones, so I kind of would have taken the stage as an opportunity to do a not as well-known song, but I thought he was good. I don't know. There's not much more to say on it, but yeah, he's just a solid performer. Like there's nothing else like exciting.
Yeah, I saw a very solid live performer. Like he sounded really good live. So and I know he was doing a ton of that. I think he was at Spotify headquarters on Sunday after the show too. Like he's just doing a lot of press right now for his new album Equals. So just really cool stuff from Ed Sheeran this week, and it was fun to get to see him in the sketch. I think like it wasn't just a complete throwaway. I thought it was nice. So Sammy, what about you? Anything else from the episode that you want to make sure we talk about?
We don't really have to dive too deep into it, but the heist. Did want to shout that out. It's definitely a character that has become very formulaic for Chris Redd at this point. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Really enjoyed like his, just the way he's able to play such I guess a dumbass would be like a good way. Or like an overconfident dummy. I really enjoy, and also something I noticed from the sketch that, maybe I'm reading into things, but it feels like there's been kind of like a running through line for the season. We like to pick these out is I feel like there's been a lot of sketches where Keenan and Chris Redd have kind of had like a dynamic where Keenan will take the opportunity to call Chris Redd's character like dumb or like, like laugh at him, like the security guard is laughing at him. And I think that's, obviously they're on the show Keenan together. So it's really cool to kind of see, someone who has been on the show for so many years kind of form this sort of bond, with this relatively newer cast member. And I don't know, that's just something I always find interesting.
Yeah, this sketch featured my favorite thing about Chris Redd, which is his eyes when he does the like that kind of thing. And it kept going because the camera was so close to him. And it's one little movement that just makes me laugh every time he like does that, like the whole like face like that.
Yeah, I have a question for the panel. Does anybody here drive stick shift? No. Okay, because I didn't think many people did. Like, I didn't think this, like, I do have a friend who was driving, he used to drive a Volkswagen Beetle for many years, and I used to make fun of him for this, and he would drive stick shift, and I was like, I have no idea how you do this, and every single time we would be at a red light, and it would turn green, he would stall, and I was just like, I cannot believe that you had to, like, you have to do this. This is just insane. But we did ask our Instagram audience. We said how many people who answered this drive stick shift or automatic, and I am stunned. I'm bringing this up on screen. 21% of the people who answered this said they drive stick shift, and I didn't realize there were that many people that still drove stick shift. So I just always knew that this was like there were a dying breed of people who drove stick shift, and that's why I thought this was really funny. But I didn't realize that many people still do it. It was just stunning to me to get this result.
Yes. Wait, I've had similar experiences. So I was in Europe and I rented a car in Spain, and it was automatically. It was just they gave a stick shift. That's what they assumed people drove. And I come to the rent-a-car place and I'm getting in the car and I was like, oh God, I can't get this thing to move anymore. But I know in Europe there are still a lot of stick shift drivers there, and they just assumed that I drove stick when I rented the car. So that could definitely play into the poll.
Yes, for sure. I don't know how many European people follow us on Instagram. I'd have to ask Nicole for the demographic numbers. I think we're about like 75% US, but I will definitely ask Sammy. Were you going to jump in there?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I love to see a poll because, the show may not be called SNL Stats anymore, but you always got those stats in your back pocket. A really quick anecdote, but I had a friend, or he's still a friend, but in high school, he bought a stick shift as his first car. Because he has a twin sister and he knew that she would want to borrow the car from him, but knew she didn't know how to drive stick. And that is like 100% the reason why he bought a stick shift, so that he didn't have to share the car with his sister.
Yeah. Was he like,
who do you think I am? Fred Flintstone?
If you met this guy, I don't think he'd even know who Fred Flintstone is. But he's also a genius. So.
Yes, for sure. And by the way, just before I head to Darin on thoughts on the heist, I did get a text back from Mike who said that Pete's screen time from this week was 1 minute and 18 seconds. So 1 minute and 18 seconds on screen for two very popular impressions. It's just,
I mean, he's been busy in his, in his state of New York. I don't know if you've seen on Twitter at all, but it's his, New York is his domain, and people are coming and going, and he's busy.
Yeah, imagine getting paid whatever ridiculous amount he gets paid for 1 minute, 18 seconds, and then dinners with Kim Kardashian. Like, he's living the life.
Yes, yeah. Hope he lasts more than 1 minute and 18 seconds in other areas of his life. So,
damn.
Okay.
Oh, Sammy left.
All right, Darin, over to you. Sorry,
we're off the rails. We're off the rails here.
As Dionne Warwick would say.
Are you nasty?
Yes, Dionne.
Yes, you are.
Okay, Darin, thoughts on the heist?
The heist. I loved it. It's I'm a huge fan of Chris Redd. Best eye work in the business. When he bugs his eyes out, he's good. I think he's good at playing like sort of those overly confident, clueless people. Like if you saw him in this sketch was kind of a sort of a spiritual successor, or spiritual connection to that other sketch pre-tape he was in the game, like it's all in the game during the Harry Styles episode. It felt like sort of a lot like that, where he's just like super confident but also extremely clueless, and like Chris Redd plays that really well.
Absolutely. Nicole in the chat also says we have our Instagram under 5% European. So I would say that surprisingly, a lot of North Americans drive stick shift. I didn't know this. Darin, anything else from the episode that you want to make sure we cover?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess we could just talk about the two sketches I liked. The final two sketches of the night. Weatherman, which was a good premise, where it was just like this morning talk show. And like you're just trying, like it just goes on like a regular morning talk show. You're trying to figure out what the twist is. Then they get to the weatherman, who's dressed up like a turkey, and he's about to do like this holiday Thanksgiving rap. And then suddenly you just see, scrolling across the bottom, oh, severe weather storm coming. There's a huge nor'easter, and everybody's clueless. And the weatherman's like, oh, sorry, I was busy with the costume and the rap. I totally forgot about this nor'easter that's going to destroy the East Coast. Sorry. Simple premise. I thought it was great. I thought Kieran did some really great work in that sketch. And the final sketch of the night, the pre-tape with Please Don't Destroy guys. Those guys are really sort of building like their own little niche, like really well. Like, this is the second time they had a sketch make it to air. If you watch the third one that was cut for time from the Rami Malek episode, like it seems like all the sketches just take place in their little writing room. And it's just, they're short. They get in, they get out. It's just like a little short ball of just weird, goofy nonsense. But just like they have good chemistry together, and I don't know. I can't wait to see more from those guys. They won me over.
Rebecca, anything on those other two sketches that Darin brought up that you want to talk about?
I just love the Please Don't Destroy guys. And I've seen them online for years now, but I think the reason why they do so well is because low budget sketches, everyone just in one room together, and it's relatable. It's like you could be sitting with your friends, and I think that's what even made them so popular to begin with, is that it's the stuff that you do and the conversations you have. Well, not exactly last night's, but little things like that they take one like daily concept and they just really just show all the awkward parts of it. And it's just awkward. It's dry humor, and I think that they are just going to be really successful at their time on the show.
Yeah, agreed. Sammy, what about you? Any thoughts on those two, either the weatherman or the PDD?
Not
PDS.
Not PDS. You'll never let me live that down. Great. I mean, like a very strong ending to this episode. I will say that on the night, I do feel like towards the end of an episode, like sometimes like when there's like a talk show or newscast sketch, I feel like we see so many of those that like, if it's late in the night, I'll just kind of be like, all right, like, yeah, I not like care or let the sketch kind of like draw me. And then, yeah, when I rewatched it, I thought this maybe was Kieran's best performance of the night. I mean, I do want to, hear that entire rap. I've been complaining a lot recently in our text about how I need more SNL songs on Spotify. So if the Turkey Tom rap is a Spotify exclusive, that's fine. And yeah, I mean the Please Don't Destroy Boys, the editing in their sketches is really just like it's like the type of stuff that I really enjoy, like very like quick cuts. And yeah, I enjoy the kind of universe they're building out there. It's definitely in a similar vein to the stuff they've been doing on TikTok for a couple of years, but that stuff, even in like their kind of small corners of their apartment that they would do on TikTok, would get like to even like kind of more levels of absurdity. So I'd like to see them, take it up a notch a little bit. Like I did enjoy this one. But I know that, as the season progresses, I'm hoping that they'll kind of reach those levels. And my only one thing about these guys and their success is I hope this isn't the end to my favorite SNL pre-tape cinematic universe, which is the Kyle Mooney sketches. I mean, now that Beck is gone, I mean, do you guys think that we're going to see any more of those? Do you think it's over? I was hoping, and this might have come up in other shows, but I was hoping for, at least one sketch to kind of honor Beck, to be like Kyle finding his new Beck. Like, I think that would be great. Yeah. Maybe interviewing, the new cast members or anything like that. I don't know, but, I don't work for the show, but, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up because I was going to compare them to Good Neighbors, and they're very similar vibes. And I think that they kind of are coming in now and replacing them. So I don't really think we'll see much more of that.
Yeah, I thought we would. I really would say, like, in the preseason, that was my interesting, stuff to watch this season, was who's going to be Kyle's new Beck. And I think the answer we got is nobody. So
he clearly is doing so well this season too. So it's almost like, on the one hand, I miss those kind of sketches because that is very much like my kind of humor, like the meta sort of stuff. On the other hand, I mean, Kyle has been getting more airtime this season than he ever has. So, I'm happy to see him doing well on the show.
Yeah, his cut for time piece at the update desk was put up on YouTube as well. The Let's Go Brandon stuff, and I actually thought he did a good job with that. So that was pretty good. I got cut for time from the show. Okay, so other things that I liked from this episode, I thought that this moment, we brought it up at the beginning, but Kieran Culkin bringing up this thing that happened with Kevin Nealon in 1991, where he was standing in the Goodnights next to Siobhan Fallon, Hogan, and Kevin Nealon, and then Kevin Nealon picks him up and lifts him up, and then he says in the monologue,
"Me, I want uppies."
And then in the Goodnight, he gets his uppies. I just thought that was a really great moment from the show that we didn't get to talk about, but really great job by Kieran Culkin in this episode. And then also, speaking of Pete before and Kim Kardashian, I just wanted to say this joke from Update really got me.
National Impotency Awareness Month began on Monday, and I, for one, thought it'd never come.
So good. So just had to sound clip that one. That one was really great. Okay, so we also asked the Instagram audience for a couple of other things from the episode and from the season overall. So we asked for episode MVP. So let me ask the panel who you guys think the audience thinks the MVP from this episode was. So Rebecca, over to you.
Cecily.
Okay, and then give me a 1, 2, 3. So Cecily, then who?
Cecily, then Alex, and then no, not Alex, Andrew, sorry. Andrew, and then Chris Red.
Okay, Cecily, Alex, and then Chris, and then Sammy, what do you say? Just make sure you unmute yourself, Sammy. Yeah.
Thank you. I've been on the show so many times. I'm actually going to differ and say I'm thinking JJ number 1, Cecily number 2, Chris Red number 3.
Okay, Darin?
I'll say, you got to put Cecily number 1. Because kind of what she did was like a whole nother level than what everybody else is doing. So I'll say Cecily number 1. I'll say, James Austin Johnson number 2. Chris Red number 3, with an honorable mention to Ego Nwodim.
Okay, perfect. So let me share this that we got to get from our Instagram audience, and this was Here, let me bring it up on screen. So first, the MVP, 45% of the audience said Cecily was our MVP. Second place was Bowen Yang. None of you had Bowen on the list, but Bowen, who was, Spectrum, and then also was, wrote and starred in that men's bathroom sketch. And then JAJ at number 3 with the Trump stuff. So actually, Kieran Culkin was number 4, our host, followed by Chris, the PDD guys, and then Dismukes coming in at number 7. So Cecily, Bowen, JJ was our top 3 in terms of MVP votes from this week from the audience. We also asked the audience, we said, and this was like my take, that I said this is the strongest season in the last 5 years. So going back to probably season 42, where they had like a lot of press for what was happening with Baldwin and Trump at the time. Rebecca, how are you feeling about that take? Do you think that this is the best season in the last 5 years?
I don't know necessarily the last 5 years. I think it could be, but I think the reason it is so good is because last season was so bad. And I think it's a good change. And I think the contrast is just a lot. And it could be in the last 5 years, but compared to last season, it's performing 200% better. And it's not COVID. So I think having that contrast is what makes it stand out. But I mean, they're doing a really great job. So.
Okay. Sammy, what about you? What do you think about that take?
I mean, I think there's certainly an argument for it. I mean, kind of like what Rebecca was saying, like, it's maybe a recency bias sort of thing where, last season was, I definitely have a lot of positive things to say about last season, but, obviously, this one is much, much stronger. It is tough though, too, because, during the Trump era, I mean, especially at the beginning, there were certainly, a ton of times, I mean, where, the cameos were fun to see. I mean, I am someone who enjoys cameos on SNL. I don't love it when it's taking roles away from, other cast members, but, there was stunt casting that was incredibly memorable. I mean, the Melissa McCarthy, Sean Spicer stuff, that's like, all-time SNL stuff. And, there were certainly things. I mean, they just had a ton of material to where like the show, had a lot to comment on. And, not that there just is obviously less so now that, Trump is not in office. But yeah, I mean, so far this season is off to a really good start. But, I'll give it a couple episodes more to really, have a firm grasp on that question.
Okay, Darin, how are you feeling about this? I'm not sure if you talked about it on the SNL Nerds or not, but somebody who podcasts about every single episode, where's your head at?
Yeah, I think it's still a little too early to tell, but I will say this season's getting off to a very strong start. I think when you compare it to the seasons before it, we definitely, even though we all love SNL, I think we can all agree there was some fatigue setting in, like maybe last season or even the season before that. Definitely during the Trump eras, definitely during all the stunt casting where you're like, yes, at first it was fun to have Trump, Alec Baldwin come in as Trump and Melissa McCarthy come in as Spicer, but then we just kind of fell into the thing where we just had a stunt casting for everybody. We had, Maya Rudolph come in, and we had Robert De Niro come in, and then we had, Matt Damon come in, and then we had Larry David come in. Like it was just it turned something like fun and unexpected to have a celebrity cameo come into something very expected. Like, oh yeah, of course Jim Carrey's going to be Biden. Okay, like it sort of the wear was starting to show, and that and the fact that each cold open was like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and they were kind of not really going anywhere. We were all getting a little tired of it. But like now, I think we're in this new era where we have all these new writers, we have new cast members, and like it's starting to show. It's starting to feel new again. Like it's James Austin Johnson. He's making a huge name for himself. Like every time I see him in a sketch, it feels like something I haven't seen before. It's like, oh, this is new. This is something. This is exciting again. Or even like the Please Don't Destroy guys. Whenever I see their sketch, it's like, oh, this is exciting. I'm starting to feel excited again for SNL. And so while this is one of the best seasons, I mean, it's too early to tell, but I'll say it's definitely the best start of the season.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Yeah, that's that's a great take, and I think that the audience actually agrees right now. So we got, and I know that the question you question the wording of the question, but basically the question we asked on Instagram is this the strongest SNL season we've had in 5+ years? And 72% of the audience says yes. So I think when the general public is feeling good about Saturday Night Live, and the super fans and the community and everyone is feeling good and having good vibes about SNL, I think we're in a very good place. So yeah, I don't want to overstate it. It's only been 5 episodes of the season, but I feel very strong about what we're getting to see. And when we talk about, golden eras in the show's history, I think I've made this take before. I think there are 3 of them. And I think that we haven't, that third one, we've been out of it probably for, at least 10 years. And now we're heading towards something good. And let's see what happens over the next few years. But I'm really enjoying the start to season 47. Okay. Coming up next in season 47 is host Jonathan Majors and musical guest Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift is a former host. Jonathan Majors is coming in for the first time. And I actually just got to see Jonathan Majors in something from Marvel. I don't know exactly, how great you can talk about it, but it is pretty much out there that Jonathan Majors was in a recent Disney Plus show, the Marvel Disney Plus show, and he killed it in the show. So Darin, I see you nodding your head. So are you excited to see Jonathan Majors on the show?
Yeah, actually I am. Like, he's definitely a star who's on the rise. If I can become like an indie movie nerd right now. I saw him a couple years back in this small indie film that I really enjoyed. I think deserves more love, called The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I think it's on Amazon now. You can see it, but it's a really good film, and he was really good in it. He was like really, he really kind of was dazzling, I'll say. And then, of course, from that, he's been in Lovecraft Country. He's just in the movie that's out now on Netflix, The Harder They Fall, with a Western with an all-black cast, has Idris Elba and Regina King in it. And he's a star that's like slowly on the rise. Like, he's going to be in the Marvel universe coming up. He actually is already. And like he's definitely he's like on the verge of being like really, really big and really, really well known. So, it makes sense that SNL would want to kind of hop on this train and get have him and show the world what he can do. So like I really think he's gonna surprise a lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I just want to be careful because I know that people are like a little bit sensitive about like their Marvel spoilers and stuff like that. But if you know who he played and you got to see him in the Disney Plus show this summer, I was dumbfounded by how great of a performance Jonathan Majors did in this show. So I'm sure it's out there. You can look it up and see who he played, but it was just, he's just a fantastic actor. And I think totally has the chops to do SNL. Sammy, I know you're a big Marvel person as well. So are you excited to see Jonathan Majors?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this episode. When I saw that he was one of the hosts that was announced, I was very pleasantly surprised. He was, I've seen him in a couple things now. We've talked about the Marvel thing, which he was fantastic in. And it's probably the thing that kind of showed off his comedy chops the most out of everything I've seen him in. So that gives me good, hope for how he's going to perform on the show. But, this is a guy who's worked with, Spike Lee and a bunch of other great directors. He was really good in The Five Bloods, which is one of my favorite films of last year. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely like an interesting time for SNL to book him, because I do feel like he's like the type of person to where, my parents don't know who, Jonathan Majors is, but, they probably also don't know who Kieran Culkin is. So, it is interesting to see from a booking perspective. I mean, Simu Liu was just in a Marvel movie, but he's also not a huge name. So, we've talked about the kind of booking of like first time hosts this season, which is, a cool direction that the show's going. I do definitely want to see some people, especially around like the holidays return. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But overall, I'm very excited. I do think, and we can throw around this example a lot, but I think he does have Adam Driver potential as far as hosts go, as someone who is definitely going to surprise people.
Yeah, and also, Sammy, you brought up, I think 7 first-time hosts are coming in the first 7 episodes, and that's the first time, I think, since the writers' strike year of 2007, 2008, that's season 33. So it's going back a while, but it is fun to get all these new people coming in. Rebecca, thoughts on Jonathan Majors or Taylor Swift coming in next week?
Yeah, I don't know anything about Marvel, so I was like confused why we couldn't talk about who he played.
Well, I'll just explain that, so just for people who don't know the situation. Yeah, it's just that he is a Marvel character, but he's not like on the poster or promoted as being a part of the show in the way that other people were. So I believe it is like a little bit of a bigger deal that he came in towards the end of a show. So that's why Simu Liu is like obviously the main character and star of Shang-Chi, right? So it's different, right, Sammy?
The show that he was in came out 5 months ago. If you haven't watched it already, it's yours.
So it's fine. It's Loki. So like it's fine. Spoiler alert, it's Loki. But it was anyways, Rebecca, over to you. Yeah.
So a surprise. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. He's very easy to look at. So that's exciting. Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not one of those like Swifties. I actually don't think I've ever said that phrase till right now. I do love that she's reclaiming all of her old music. So I'm excited for the album and her performance. She always is so good. Like I could sing you right now and I'll spare you, but I could sing her whole monologue song, like recited very easily. So I hope she makes a cameo in a few sketches because for someone who is not an actress, like she does a really good job when she's on SNL in just getting into characters. So I hope they throw her in one sketch. And I am excited to hear Red re-released Taylor's version. So that's exciting, just music news. But yeah, I'm not like a major Swiftie, but it's always good to see her name on the show. And Nicole says she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. So
yes,
that's for you.
Thank you, Nicole, for that. I was actually on, and this episode hasn't come out yet, but I was on the SNL Hall of Fame podcast talking about why Taylor Swift should be in the SNL Hall of Fame. And I think there's a lot of people who you may think should go in ahead of her, but she's actually been like a really big part of Saturday Night Live in some major moments. Especially, like she has hosted one. She was a musical guest 3 other times, but she's cameoed in several sketches, and she's had really impactful performances on the show. So I think she is definitely like a great sketch comedian and somebody I would like to see in some things this week, more than just in the like Ed Sheeran, Dionne Warwick's type of role. I would like to see if we're going to get some stuff from Taylor Swift this week, because she's just so much fun when she's on the show every single time. And I know that people are very, very excited. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people camped out this week to go see the show. So that will be really fun. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight for our roundtable. It's just been a really lively, fun discussion, and the panelists and the chat, it's really fun to get to talk through everything from the Kieran Culkin and Ed Sheeran episode. For everything else we have coming up on SNL Network this week, so we had a roundtable tonight, and if you missed part of it, it'll be available after on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so you can check out the whole roundtable. We also had our hot take show from last Saturday night, and we also did a show last week where we interviewed Judy Belushi-Pisano, the wife of John Belushi, and it was a great interview, and we got to hear some wonderful stories from her. So it's not on the graphic we put up there, but I just want to say, like, if you missed that interview, definitely go check it out if you're curious about the early days at SNL, because she was there for a lot of the biggest moments that created Saturday Night Live. So really go check out that interview, and then join us on Thursday for the Patron feedback show. We have 2 patrons coming on with us, Greg and Emily from the Saturday Night Vibes podcast, and we're going to answer feedback questions from people in the SNL community and talk about what's happening in SNL social media. There was a lot of SNL social media this week that I can't wait to go through. And then join us for the hot take show on Saturday night right after the episode is finished. We'll be live after Jonathan Majors and Taylor Swift about 1:10 on YouTube to break down all the best sketches from the night. Okay, Rebecca, thank you for joining us. Where can people reach out to you?
People can reach out to me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, I guess, at @ReBarbecue. My TikTok, I'm trying to rebrand as Soup TikTok, so give me some love there. And I have to say, you guys keep inviting me back. I don't know why, but this is my favorite comment section out of all the roundtables I've done. Everyone was super involved, and I could not take my eyes off of it. So thanks for everyone in the comment section, because you guys have been super fun.
Before we move on, can you just fill us in on what is Soup TikTok?
Yeah, so I just recently rediscovered soup. Has anyone ever done that? I just realized how much I enjoy eating soup. And I'm now trying to a lot of my TikTok content is centered around soup. So it's not entertaining, and you should not watch it. But if you want to, at @ReBarbecue.
Excellent plug. Thank you for that. That was great. Sammy, where can people reach out to you?
Well, Rebecca, I have a friend on TikTok who has a channel called Mike's Super Short Show. and he's kind of blown up. So you guys should collab. I'll get you guys connected. But you
Oh my
can
God,
find
please.
me at that Sammy Kay on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you are feeling those post-Halloween blues and you're not ready for Thanksgiving or the holiday season, feel free to go back and check out our latest Superfan Takeover, where me and the Superfans discussed our favorite SNL Halloween moments, talk everything from David S. Pumpkins to Adam Sandler's crazy costume ideas. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do so. It's been great being on the show.
Thanks for joining us, Sammy. Really appreciate that. And Darin, how wonderful is it to get to hear from you? It was just like, it's so much fun, and I'm glad we had you on the show again. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, John. You are just the bee's knees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can people reach out to you and check out your show if they haven't heard the SNL Nerds yet?
Yeah, well, I say you can listen to me on the SNL Nerd, the podcast I do with my buddy John Trumbull. 2 comics in New Jersey, talk about Saturday Night Live. We talk about each episode. When the show's dark, we'll talk about, an SNL related TV show, SNL related movie. We've talked about, we talked about Ghostbusters. We've talked about Barry. We've talked about the Belushi doc that was on Showtime. We do it all. So you can listen to that podcast wherever you find podcasts. We're on the Non-Productive Network. So you can go to non-productive.com. You can follow us on Twitter at SNL Nerd Show. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'm at Darin Credible. That's D-A-R-I Incredible. I am not on TikTok because I am an old man who fears new technology.
Darin, you're not into soup TikTok? What's with you?
I know. I've been eating soup in private all this time, like a schmuck. Should I be TikToking this? No.
Rebecca.
You should.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I guess so. Get ready
I'm
for me, world.
wanting this to be a soup podcast.
We're
Slowly but surely,
rebranding.
I'm planting the seeds.
Get ready, world. Yeah, you'll see me attack a bowl of minestrone.
Got it. All right. We'll look forward to that. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us. You can subscribe to us at the SNL Network. Find us on YouTube, any podcatcher that you listen to podcasts on. We appreciate those subscriptions because it helps people find the show. Please follow us at the SNL Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, we're on TikTok, not soup TikTok, but we are on TikTok. And you can find me at John Schneider24 on any of the socials if you want to reach out. I love to get feedback about the show. So please let us know how we're doing, and we can always just make the shows better. We love to do that. So great to interact with everybody from the community. We'll be back for the Patron feedback show in a few days, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.